This is a huge controversy in science at the moment. We know that there was enormous flooding 12,800 years ago, but the question is what caused it?
What if Graham Hancock was right about ancient America? For decades, the story of humanity in the Americas had what seemed like a very clear first chapter. You could draw a line in the sand 13,000 years ago, with a culture known as the Clovis. Mainstream science was certain they were the first. Anyone who even suggested otherwise was stepping way outside the bounds of established fact. And for decades, one of the loudest dissenting voices has belonged to Graham Hancock. For his efforts, he's been branded a pseudoscientist. His theories of a much older, more mysterious past in the Americas, dismissed as pure fantasy. But what if those fantasies are starting to look a lot like facts? In just the last few years, the solid foundation of American archaeology has started to crumble. Stunning new finds are forcing us to rethink everything. We thought we knew. The old timeline isn't just bent, it's broken. For most of the 20th century, a single idea dominated American archaeology: the Clovis first model. The theory was beautifully simple. Around 13,500 years ago, the massive ice sheets covering North America finally parted, creating an ice-free corridor that acted like a temporary highway. The first humans supposedly walked through it, crossed the Bering Land Bridge, and spread south across the continent. These people, identified by their distinctive and lethal spear points, were the Clovis. For archaeologists, this was settled science. It was like the first and only chapter in the book. Case closed. But a handful of researchers and outspoken critics, most famously Graham Hancock, kept pointing at anomalies that didn't fit the neat story. Hancock argued that the story didn't start with Clovis. He talked about a human presence reaching much, much deeper into the mists of the last ice age. For the most part, the academic establishment just ignored him. Suggesting a pre-Clovis presence was like scientific heresy, a great way to end your career. Just ask archaeologist Jacques Cinq-Mars. In the 1970s, he presented evidence from the Bluefish Caves in the Yukon, showing human activity dating back 24,000 years. He was met with such fierce resistance, it was like hitting a scientific brick wall, and his career was effectively destroyed. The establishment held the line. Clovis was first, period. But then, the evidence just became impossible to ignore. Sites like Monte Verde in Chile and the Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania had already hinted at a much earlier human story. The pushback against them was immense. But then came the discovery that would shatter the old paradigm for good. In White Sands National Park, New Mexico, preserved in ancient layers of mud, were human footprints. But these weren't just any footprints. When scientists dated the seed layers above and below the tracks, they got a stunning result. They were between 21,000 and 23,000 years old. That's nearly 10,000 years before Clovis. The discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community, like an earthquake shaking the foundations of a long-standing building. Many attacked the dating methods, arguing the seeds were like sponges, that they could have absorbed older carbon from the water, throwing off the results and giving a false ancient date. But then, in 2023, a follow-up study blew those doubts away. It used two entirely different methods, including radiocarbon dating of ancient pollen. It was like getting a second and third opinion from different specialists, and the results were the same. Humans were walking through New Mexico at the brutal peak of the last ice age. The Clovis first model was officially dead. So, if people were in the Americas during the ice age, what happened to them and their world? This question brings us to another of Hancock's core arguments: that a global cataclysm, a cosmic impact event, slammed the reset button on human history around 12,800 years ago. This is known as the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. It proposes that one or more fragments of a shattered comet hit the Earth, possibly exploding over the North American ice sheet. The resulting shockwaves and continent-spanning fires would have been unimaginable. Throwing so much dust and smoke into the atmosphere, it was like drawing a thick black curtain over the sun, triggering a sudden dramatic plunge in global temperatures, a 1,000-year impact winter. For Hancock, this event is the smoking gun that explains the disappearance of a hypothetical advanced civilization of the Ice Age. It is critical to state that this hypothesis is highly controversial and is rejected by the majority of relevant experts. Most scientists argue the cooling was caused by natural processes, like a massive plumbing problem in the planet's oceans, a huge pulse of glacial meltwater shutting down the currents that act as a global heating and cooling system. Critics also rightly point out the lack of an obvious large impact crater. Still, the proponents of the theory are gathering a body of intriguing evidence. Across multiple continents, right at that 12,800-year mark, scientists find a black mat layer, which is like a thin layer of ash in the geological record indicating widespread burning. Inside this layer, they've found nanodiamonds, tiny metallic spherules, and shocked quartz, all minerals forged in the kind of extreme heat and pressure you'd expect from a cosmic blacksmith's forge. New research has even identified this geochemical signature in deep ocean sediments, suggesting it was a truly global event. This catastrophe lines up perfectly with the extinction of North America's giant mammals, like mammoths and mastodons, and the sudden vanishing of the Clovis people from the archaeological record. While the scientific community remains deeply divided, Hancock's insistence that something terrible happened at the end of the Ice Age is looking less like a wild fantasy and more like a real, unsettling possibility that demands more research. He was right that this moment in time was a crucial, world-changing turning point. If a sophisticated culture was wiped off the map, did it leave any clues behind? Hancock says yes, but not like a detailed instruction manual. He sees them more as echoes in the stone and soil, passed down to later, supposedly simpler cultures. He points to enigmatic sites across the Americas as the potential fingerprints of this lost legacy. First, let's head to the Amazon. For years, it was considered a pristine wilderness, sparsely populated by small nomadic groups. But modern deforestation has peeled back the canopy to reveal something astonishing. Hundreds of massive geometric earthworks, or geoglyphs. These perfect squares, circles, and octagons are enormous, with ditches up to 36 feet wide and 13 feet deep. Over 450 have been found so far, scattered across thousands of square miles. Hancock has wondered if these could be remnants of his lost civilization. The latest archaeology, however, dates most of these structures to between 1,000 and 3,000 years ago, built by complex indigenous societies, not an Ice Age culture. But this discovery does prove another of Hancock's long-held points. The Amazon wasn't a virgin wilderness at all. It was more like a vast, ancient garden, actively managed and cultivated by large, settled populations long before Europeans arrived. The question still remains, why build these giant, seemingly ceremonial structures? Now let's travel north, to the Great Mounds of North America. Sites like Serpent Mound in Ohio and the city of Cahokia in Illinois are marvels of ancient engineering. Serpent Mound is a nearly quarter-mile-long effigy of a snake that appears to be swallowing the sun. For a long time, its age was debated, but recent dating suggests it was built around 300 BC by the Adena culture. But Hancock argues its real meaning is astronomical. The head of the serpent aligns perfectly with the setting sun on the summer solstice. Hundreds of miles away, the ancient city of Cahokia, which peaked around 1050 AD, was larger than London at the time. Its builders, the Mississippians, constructed over 100 mounds, including the colossal Monk's Mound, a terraced pyramid with a base larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Cahokia has its own alignments, but its main grid is offset 5 degrees from true north. Why? Archaeologists suggest it points to the rising sun on the summer solstice and the rising moon at its northernmost point. Mainstream archaeology rightfully gives credit for these incredible feats to the ingenuity of the indigenous Adena, Hopewell, and Mississippian cultures. There is no direct evidence linking them back to a lost Ice Age civilization. But Hancock asks a fascinating question. Could the sophisticated astronomical and geometric knowledge needed to build these sites be a legacy? An echo of a much older tradition, passed down through generations, the last embers of a forgotten golden age. So what was Graham Hancock right about? The evidence doesn't support his most sensational claim, that a single advanced, globe-spanning Ice Age civilization with futuristic technology was wiped out and then covered up by scientists. That remains firmly in the realm of speculation, like an exciting treasure map that has yet to be proven real. But he was right about the most important thing. He was right to question the story we were all told.